Superman Doomsday, or Super Doom, is one of the most intense and unsettling twists in the Superman mythos, blending the power of the Man of Steel with the monstrous rage of Doomsday. This terrifying transformation unfolds in the 2014 storyline Superman Doomed, where Superman faces a threat that pushes him to his absolute limit, both physically and mentally. It starts like any other brutal encounter with Doomsday, Superman locked in a desperate battle for survival. But this time, Doomsday is even more dangerous, having escaped the Phantom Zone stronger than ever. In a moment of no-win desperation, Superman kills Doomsday to save Earth, but victory comes at a terrible cost. Upon Doomsday's destruction, a deadly toxin is released, one that Superman unknowingly inhales. This toxin isn't just poisonous, it's transformative, corrupting Superman's cells and beginning a horrifying mutation that turns him into a monstrous version of Doomsday himself. As the infection spreads, Superman's body starts to change, his once familiar figure distorting with jagged spikes and monstrous bulk. Worse still, the transformation isn't just physical, his mind becomes clouded with Doomsday's primal rage and violent instincts. The noble hero begins to lose control, becoming a terrifying beast, capable of immense destruction. But as if that wasn't enough, Brainiac chooses this moment to launch a full-scale invasion of Earth, intending to assimilate humanity into his twisted collective. Faced with an impossible choice, Superman makes the ultimate sacrifice, fully embracing the Doomsday infection to tap into its devastating power. As Super Doom, he unleashes unimaginable destruction to stop Brainiac, proving to be a near unstoppable force. Yet the battle isn't just one of fists and power, it's a war for Superman's very soul. While his corrupted body rampages, his mind fights a desperate battle against both Brainiac's influence and Doomsday's overwhelming bloodlust. It's only thanks to the unwavering support of his closest friends, their belief in him and their presence within his mind, that Superman manages to cling to his humanity. In the end, Superman defeats Brainiac and suppresses the Doomsday infection, returning to his true self. But the scars of the ordeal remain, a haunting reminder that even the strongest hero can be pushed to the brink. Super Doom is a chilling reminder of the constant battle between Superman's power and his morality. With the combined might of Superman's strength, flight, and invulnerability, plus Doomsday's terrifying ability to adapt to any weakness, Super Doom is a nearly unstoppable force. But what truly defines this version of Superman is his unwavering will and the powerful connections he shares with those who believe in him. Even in his darkest hour, Superman's true strength comes from the heart, and that's what makes him the greatest hero of all. When Superman turns dark, his near-limitless power becomes a terrifying force of destruction. One of the most chilling examples of this is The Last Son, a twisted and corrupted version of Kal-El, created by the Batman Who Laughs. Introduced in Dark Knight's death metal, The Multiverse Who Laughs, this twisted Superman variant combines Kal-El's Kryptonian abilities with the devastating force of a living star, making him a nightmare for even the strongest heroes. The Last Son's origin mirrors Superman's, at least at first. Krypton explodes, and baby Kal-El is sent to Earth. But in this twisted timeline, the Darkest Knight manipulates his journey, ensuring his pod passes through thousands of suns before landing on Earth. Instead of arriving as the hopeful hero we know, this Kal-El is mutated into an energy-devouring monster, a being warped by endless exposure to solar radiation. By the time he lands, he's no longer a beacon of hope. He's a living furnace of destruction, driven by an insatiable hunger to consume and obliterate everything in his path. The Last Son retains all of Superman's iconic powers: super strength, flight, invulnerability, and enhanced senses. But now, with terrifying upgrades, he becomes the embodiment of a star itself, capable of unleashing devastating energy blasts and draining the life force of those around him. He doesn't just overpower his enemies, he feeds on them. When the Last Son is unleashed upon the multiverse defenders, he proves nearly unstoppable, even overpowering Superman himself. In one brutal encounter, the Last Son severely weakens Superman by forcing him to absorb excessive amounts of anti-life energy and solar radiation, leaving the Man of Steel barely clinging to life. Even the combined might of the Justice League barely scratches the surface of the Last Son's overwhelming power. With hope fading fast, Lex Luthor arrives with a desperate gambit. Using his war suit's self-destruct mechanism, Luthor triggers a massive black hole, powerful enough to drag the Last Son into oblivion. In a selfless act of sacrifice, Luthor gives his life to ensure the corrupted Superman is finally stopped. The Last Son is a haunting twist on Superman's origin, turning the very source of his power, the sun, into the force that corrupts him. The same light that once symbolized hope now fuels a being of pure destruction. His star-like form and terrifying energy absorption abilities make him one of the deadliest Superman variants to ever exist. Ultimately, The Last Sun serves as a grim reminder of what happens when Superman's power is corrupted beyond recognition. It proves that even the brightest light can cast the darkest shadow, and when that shadow takes the form of a twisted Superman, the entire multiverse trembles. When it comes to terrifying versions of Superman, few are as chilling as the anti-living Superman from DC's DCeased universe, a twisted, zombie-like version of Clark Kent stripped of his humanity. This horrifying transformation unfolds when the anti-life equation is unleashed, spreading a devastating techno-organic virus that infects billions. The virus doesn't just turn people into mindless zombies. It erases free will and intellect, leaving its victims with one singular purpose: to spread anti-life and destroy everything in their path. Tragically, even Superman isn't immune to this devastating plague. After a brutal encounter with an infected Flash, Clark succumbs to the virus, becoming an unstoppable force of rage and destruction. With his compassion and moral compass erased, Superman's immense power is now driven by an insatiable hunger to obliterate life itself. Even worse, the anti-living Superman retains all of his Kryptonian abilities: super strength, flight, invulnerability, and enhanced senses, but now without the restraint that once kept those powers in check. Unlike traditional zombies, the infected and deceased don't crave flesh. They exist solely to wipe out life. This makes Superman's infection all the more terrifying. He doesn't hunt, he devastates, unleashing unchecked destruction on everything in his path. One of the most haunting moments in the series comes when the anti-living Superman attempts to absorb the sun itself to gain even more power. In a desperate bid to stop him, the Green Lantern Corps makes an unthinkable decision. They let the sun die, sacrificing all life in the solar system to freeze the virus in its tracks. It's a grim and desperate move that shows just how unstoppable Superman had become, and how close the universe came to complete destruction. Though DCeased takes place in an alternate universe, its impact is unforgettable. Seeing Superman, the ultimate symbol of hope, transformed into a mindless engine of destruction is a deeply unsettling twist that stays with readers long after the story ends. In the sequel, War of the Undead Gods, Superman is ultimately cured and reunited with his family, but the scars of his infection linger. His fall from hero to cosmic threat serves as a haunting reminder of how even the strongest beacon of hope can become the greatest danger under the wrong circumstances. Interestingly, DCeased draws inspiration from Marvel Zombies, which originally intended to feature Superman as its central infected hero. By reclaiming that horrifying concept, DCeased proves that no one, not even Superman, is immune to the corruption of ultimate power when twisted by darkness. When it comes to dark versions of Superman, few are as brutal and chilling as Ultraman. First introduced in Justice League Volume 2, number 23 in 2013, Ultraman hails from Earth-3, a twisted parallel universe where good and evil are reversed. Unlike the noble Kal-El we know, this version of Superman was shaped by violence, corruption, and cruelty, and the results are terrifying. Instead of being raised by loving parents like Jonathan and Martha Kent, this Kal-El's upbringing was far more twisted. After murdering his adoptive parents as a child, Kal-El of Earth-3 grew up to become Ultraman, a ruthless conqueror and the tyrannical leader of the crime syndicate, Earth-3's twisted version of the Justice League. In terms of power, Ultraman shares many of Superman's abilities: super strength, flight, invulnerability, and enhanced senses, but with one key difference: his power source. While Superman thrives on sunlight, Ultraman's power grows stronger from kryptonite. Instead of avoiding it like Superman does, Ultraman crushes kryptonite into powder and inhales it like a drug, boosting his strength on demand. This twisted addiction makes him immune to one of Superman's greatest weaknesses, giving Ultraman an unnerving edge in battle. However, his power comes with a price. Sunlight weakens him, draining his energy and making him vulnerable. This stark contrast to Superman's solar-powered strength reinforces just how opposite these two versions are. Notably, some interpretations of Ultraman have removed this vulnerability, making him even more dangerous. What truly makes Ultraman terrifying isn't just his strength, it's his ruthlessness. While Superman inspires hope and leads with compassion, Ultraman rules through sheer fear. He doesn't just stop threats, he eliminates them before they can challenge him. His brutality makes him one of the most dangerous tyrants in the multiverse. On Earth-3, the crime syndicate spreads chaos and destruction, ensuring that Ultraman's reign remains unchallenged. But Ultraman's ambitions don't stop there. He's obsessed with expanding his domination across the multiverse. In one shocking storyline, Ultraman appears to be killed by the Injustice Superman in Adventures of Superman, John Kent. But as we know, death is rarely permanent in DC's multiverse. During DC Rebirth, the multiverse resurrected both Ultraman and Earth-3, reinforcing their place as a necessary dark reflection of Prime Earth. This revival hints at Ultraman's dangerous future plans to steal Superman's power and eliminate alternate versions of him across the multiverse. Ultraman's strength has reached ridiculous heights, even allowing him to lift the Book of Infinite Pages, a feat that showcases his staggering power. Ironically, his name is a nod to Japan's iconic hero Ultraman, who stands for justice and hope, a sharp contrast to Earth-3's twisted tyrant. Ultraman is more than just an evil Superman. He's a grim warning of what Superman could become without his compassion and moral compass. He's a walking nightmare, ruthless, power-hungry, and always willing to destroy anyone who dares stand in his way. Injustice. Superman is one of the most chilling portrayals of the Man of Steel, a hero pushed so far past his breaking point that he becomes the very thing he once stood against. In the Injustice storyline, Superman's descent into tyranny begins with a devastating tragedy that shatters his world forever. It all starts when the Joker tricks Superman into believing that Doomsday is attacking. In reality, the Doomsday Superman is fighting is actually Lois Lane, who's pregnant with their child. Unknowingly, Superman kills Lois, and her death triggers a nuclear bomb that destroys Metropolis. In one twisted move, the Joker robs Superman of his wife, unborn child, and his home all at once. Overcome with grief and rage, Superman does the unthinkable. He murders the Joker on the spot. This tragic moment marks the turning point. Superman's grief warps his sense of justice, and he begins a descent into darkness. Determined to prevent such tragedies from happening again, Superman forms the Regime, a ruthless, authoritarian force dedicated to enforcing peace, no matter the cost. What once made Superman a beacon of hope is now twisted into a brutal philosophy of control. He becomes a tyrant, willing to kill anyone who opposes his vision, even his closest friend, Batman. Despite this dark transformation, Superman's abilities remain identical to his Prime Earth counterpart. Powered by the yellow sun, he still possesses super strength, flight, invulnerability, and enhanced senses. He's powerful enough to lift massive objects, defeat entire armies, and move faster than sound or light. His accelerated healing factor allows him to recover from injuries in moments, making him nearly unstoppable in battle. But what truly makes Injustice Superman dangerous isn't just his powers, it's his mindset. His grief and anger have consumed him, twisting his sense of morality. He believes that by controlling the world with an iron fist, he can create a utopia, no matter how many people he has to kill to achieve it. Superman's descent into tyranny grows even darker when he allies with Brainiac, the deadly alien conqueror. Using Brainiac's advanced technology, Superman seizes control over powerful civilizations and assembles an army of superpowered soldiers who follow his every command. With this newfound power, Superman sets his sights far beyond Earth, seeking to expand his oppressive regime across the universe itself. Despite his godlike power, Injustice Superman isn't without weaknesses. Kryptonite can still weaken him. Magic remains one of his greatest vulnerabilities, and sometimes his own emotions, his grief, rage, and guilt, leave him vulnerable to manipulation. However, his ability to adapt and overcome these weaknesses makes him especially dangerous. As long as he remains close to sunlight, Superman's power is nearly limitless. His heat vision burns with solar intensity, capable of incinerating enemies in an instant, while his ice breath can freeze entire landscapes in seconds. His superhuman hearing, while powerful, also exposes him to sound-based attacks, one of the few ways opponents can exploit his enhanced senses. Throughout the Injustice saga, Superman's descent from a symbol of hope to a merciless dictator stands as one of the most powerful stories of loss and corruption in comic book history. His belief in justice remains, but it's been warped beyond recognition, making him a terrifying embodiment of unchecked power. Even when faced with former friends like Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Green Lantern, Superman refuses to back down, determined to enforce his twisted sense of order at any cost. Injustice. Superman is a haunting reminder that even the greatest of heroes can fall when burdened with unimaginable grief. His transformation from Earth's greatest protector to its most dangerous threat proves that in the wrong circumstances, absolute power doesn't just corrupt, it can destroy everything a hero once stood for. Super Doom stands as one of the strangest and most dangerous versions of Superman ever created, a twisted reflection of what happens when corporate greed and destructive ideas shape a hero. Originating from Earth-45, Super Doom's creation began with noble intentions but spiraled into something far darker. On this Earth, Clark Kent, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen invented a device capable of turning thoughts into reality. Their goal was simple: to create a hero powered by pure ideas, a symbol of hope and justice born from imagination itself. Tragically, their creation was hijacked by a ruthless corporation known as Overcorp. Instead of a savior, Overcorp twisted their invention into something monstrous: a brutal, thought-powered Superman designed to crush all opposition. Enter Super Doom, a living engine of destruction, programmed not to protect, but to dominate. What makes Super Doom particularly terrifying is that he embodies a corrupted vision of heroism, one shaped by violence, greed, and power. Programmed to eliminate all competition, Super Doom rampages across the multiverse, targeting and killing alternate versions of Superman. His strength, durability, and power grow stronger with each new world he devastates. The more people fear him, or even think about him, the more unstoppable he becomes. Unlike traditional Superman variants who draw strength from the yellow sun, Super Doom's power comes from thoughts and belief. The more minds focus on him, whether in fear, worship, or awe, the stronger he gets. This makes him a terrifying force, thriving on attention like a twisted celebrity of destruction. His armor further amplifies this threat, shielding him from kryptonite, one of the few weaknesses he technically retains. To ensure no Superman is ever safe, Super Doom uses transmitter cubes to leap between universes, hunting down alternate versions of Kal-El with ruthless precision. His pursuit leaves a trail of devastated worlds in his wake, proving that Super Doom isn't just a threat, he's a walking apocalypse fueled by fear itself. Despite his horrific origins, Super Doom's story took a surprising turn when he briefly allied with Injustice Incarnate to help protect the multiverse. Yet even in this role, Super Doom's violent nature and destructive past make him a questionable ally. His very existence, born from corporate greed and twisted ambition, leaves little doubt about his dangerous potential. At his peak, Super Doom managed to defeat multiple versions of Superman, a terrifying testament to how powerful fear and belief can become when weaponized. His story is a chilling reminder that even the most well-intentioned ideas can turn monstrous when corrupted by greed and power. Super Doom's legacy warns of the dangers of unchecked ambition and how easily hope can be twisted into horror when exploited by those with selfish intentions. In a universe full of powerful threats, Super Doom stands out as a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous enemies aren't born, they're created. Superboy Prime is one of the most powerful and terrifying versions of Superman ever to emerge from the DC universe. Hailing from Earth Prime, a world where superheroes only existed in comic books, Superboy Prime's story starts with Clark Kent living as an ordinary teenager. But everything changes when he encounters the Superman of Earth-1, which awakens his Kryptonian abilities. Unlike traditional versions of Superman, Superboy Prime's world had no kryptonite, making him nearly unstoppable. His power rivaled the legendary Silver Age Superman, putting him in a league far beyond most other DC characters. From his flight speed to his planet-shattering strength, Superboy Prime's abilities made him a living powerhouse. And that was just the beginning. At first, Superboy Prime was a hero, fighting for justice like his counterparts across the multiverse. But after witnessing the tragic destruction of his homeworld during the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, his mind began to spiral. Isolated in a supposed paradise dimension for years, Prime's mental state deteriorated. Watching other heroes live what he believed were inferior versions of his own heroic journey drove him into a dangerous obsession. Convinced that he was the one true Superman, Prime became fixated on restoring his lost world, and he was willing to destroy anyone who stood in his way. During Infinite Crisis, Superboy Prime's instability reached a horrifying peak. In his delusional rage, he accidentally killed several heroes, and when he realized what he had done, it only drove him further into madness. His destructive rampage devastated the multiverse, and it took an army of heroes to bring him down. The Flash family managed to trap him in the Speed Force, while the Green Lantern Corps combined their efforts to imprison him beneath a red sun, hoping to drain his power. Even these extreme measures barely held him back. Superboy Prime's resilience is what makes him so dangerous. He's immune to many of Superman's traditional weaknesses. Magic, kryptonite, and even mental attacks barely faze him. Worse yet, his signature power suit constantly feeds him yellow sun radiation, ensuring he remains at full strength even in environments that would normally weaken a Kryptonian. At his most powerful, Superboy Prime wasn't just strong. He could manipulate time itself and even create pocket universes. His abilities bordered on godlike, making him one of the most overwhelming threats the DC Universe has ever faced. Despite seemingly sacrificing himself to save the multiverse during Dark Knights, death metal, Superboy Prime ultimately returned to his home dimension with his powers still intact, leaving his future intentions dangerously uncertain. What makes Superboy Prime especially terrifying isn't just his strength, it's his unstable mind. His twisted belief that only his world is perfect fuels his rage, making him unpredictable and nearly impossible to reason with. He isn't evil in the traditional sense. He's a delusional figure consumed by loss, grief, and obsession. This combination of overwhelming power and unhinged thinking makes Superboy Prime one of the most formidable threats in the entire DC multiverse, a walking disaster whose return is always cause for concern. Red Son's Superman, a fascinating and complex reimagining of the Man of Steel, comes from an alternate universe where his life takes a drastically different path. Instead of crash landing in Smallville, Kansas, Kal-El's ship lands on a collective farm in Soviet Ukraine, placing him at the heart of the USSR during the Cold War. Raised by communist workers, this Superman grows up as a loyal enforcer of Joseph Stalin's regime, wielding his immense power to advance the Soviet Union's influence across the globe. Unlike some of the more twisted versions of Superman, Red Son's Superman isn't purely evil. While he becomes a powerful figure in Stalin's oppressive system, his actions are guided by a genuine desire to create what he believes is a better, more orderly society. At times, he resembles a protective yet controlling big brother, a hero in his own mind, but one who's willing to use force and manipulation to maintain order. His internal conflict creates a fascinating dynamic as he struggles between his loyalty to the Soviet Union and his deep-rooted sense of justice. As time passes, Superman's growing doubts about Stalin's regime and his own methods push him to question his role. Unlike other evil Superman variants who spiral further into darkness, Red Son Superman finds a path to redemption. His turning point comes when Brainiac, initially an ally, betrays him and emerges as the true villain. Faced with this betrayal and the consequences of his own actions, Superman steps back from his role as the USSR's enforcer. By doing so, he ultimately reclaims the heroic qualities that define the traditional Superman, standing for truth, justice, and the greater good. In terms of power, Red Son Superman is every bit as formidable as his mainstream counterpart. Thanks to Earth's yellow sun, he possesses the classic Superman powers: super strength, flight, heat vision, X-ray vision, and near invulnerability. Whether fighting for the USSR or defending the world from powerful threats, his abilities make him an unstoppable force. However, like all Kryptonians, he remains vulnerable to kryptonite and magic. What sets Red Son Superman apart from other Dark Superman variants like Overman or Injustice Superman is his capacity for change. While he starts as a dangerous figure, his journey ultimately leads him back to the core values that Superman represents: compassion, justice, and hope. His story serves as a powerful reminder that even those who stray far from their ideals can find redemption. In the end, Red Son is a powerful exploration of nature versus nurture, ideology, and personal growth. It shows that no matter the circumstances, the symbol of Superman is ultimately a beacon of hope, proving that good can triumph over evil, even in the darkest timelines. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Superman's darkest variants, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on our next epic breakdown. Got a favorite Superman story or villain you want us to cover? Drop it in the comments below. Your idea might just be featured in our next video. Stay awesome, and we'll see you next time.